Hello everybody, welcome to another Digital Monday. My name is John LeDrew with Melco International. We have Mike Doe behind the scenes over there.
Good morning everybody, how y'all doing?
Mike is running the computers today and we are in the Melco office, which is nice. We haven't been back here in a while. I want to comment on my jacket here. My brother said I look like a 70s used Cadillac salesman.
I think it's more like Lincoln Continental myself.
Yeah, there you go, Lincoln man. This jacket actually is from Jack A. Weil. He's the inventor and the guy who started Rock Mount Ranch Wear here in Denver, Colorado, and they're like a local Denver institution. And I got this from him personally. It's funny, it fits because he was like 5'3". I don't know why it fits me, but it's just meant to be. So here we go.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Anyway. Today on Digital Monday, we are talking about artwork for direct-to-garment printing, artwork really for digital preparation. We're going to use, I'm going to show you some quick artwork techniques in Photoshop and Illustrator and then in Garment Creator. It's kind of a little bit more of an enhancement to what we do, an elaboration on what we talked about with Dane Clement from, Great Dane.
Great Dane, yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So a lot of people have questions about artwork for direct-to-garment. I want to talk to you specifically about some of the things that we do in the programs to make sure that we're going to get good results on our printer, and then emphasizing how important some of the other elements are to get good results. So I made a quick little, I'll let Mike switch over to my main screen here, or to my computer screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I made a quick little commercial a while ago about some artwork that we're using. This will...
I dig the music, man.
Mm-hmm. So what we're showing you there basically is how quickly you can take a piece of artwork and then bring it into Garment Creator and start printing it on your direct-to-garment printer. So first things first, I need to pull up some art. So I'm going to go into Illustrator. I have a piece of art here already set. This is the art that we printed on that I printed in that commercial. So as you can see, this is it's all locked. Excuse me. This is vector art. This was created in Illustrator. A lot of you use Illustrator artwork for a number of different things coming from customers, whatever it may be. I want to show you how we're going to take this out of here and we're going to put it into Garment Creator. So we have a black background. In this case, I'm just going to turn that background off. You notice the black in the artwork here. I could actually ungroup this and I could remove that black because we're going to print it on a black shirt. But you'll notice in Garment Creator that it will actually remove the black for you. So I'm just going to make sure that that black is registration black, nice type black. And I'll show you those techniques in Garment Creator to remove the black when you're printing on a black shirt, or what settings you use. So from here, I have my artwork. Essentially, I want to make sure it's the right size. So I can select my design and get an idea of how big it is. Here it's 14 by 21. That's bigger than we can do on the 14 by 16 platen that comes with Garment Creator. It comes with your F2100, but it's fine. You could print this on the large platen, the 20 by 21, or the 16 by 20. We just have to reduce it a little bit, but essentially we're going to leave this as is, this size. I don't need to change it because I can make that adjustment in Garment Creator. So from here, I have the colors I want them the way I want them. You notice that this is RGB. This is basically directly from the customer, so I'm not making much changes here. The trick to Illustrator is you need to export as. So we're saving this as a transparent background PNG. And I'm just going to do a Horseman test. I'm going to put it to the desktop here. But notice here when I select PNG, some of the features that come up. One, we want it to be high resolution. Typically these defaults are fine, but the key here is transparent. So we want to keep that background transparent. Okay, so once that saves out of Illustrator, we can check it out on the desktop. It's going to look like a white background, but that is my saved file right there.
Hey John, could you go back to Illustrator for one moment? And when you get to the export of the PNG The checkerboard background,
Yeah.
does that tell you that it's a transparent
Yeah,
background?
right. Yeah, so good point, Mike. What does a transparent background actually look like? Let's just do this, walk through this again. You can see here, I can't really make this bigger, but there is a bit of a checkerboard background in that image, in that small frame here. I'm going to show you that in more detail in Photoshop.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep, so that is critical. What does a transparent background actually look like? So, so there's that design out of Illustrator. I'm going to actually save this now as a, well, let's just open our PNG in Photoshop. So say that this was sent to you as a JPEG or a PDF. Typically, if it's sent as a raster image that comes from Photoshop, there will be a layer in the background that you can remove to make sure that you have that transparency. But notice here that checkerboard pattern in the background means that it's actually a PNG or a transparent background image. You can do transparencies with TIFFs as well. So this would be an example of a white background, something that we can't have if we're printing on a dark garment. If you're printing on a dark garment, you must remove this background. If it's in the artwork, like if it's embedded, I'm just going to duplicate these layers real quick and show you an example.
And this would probably be like if we had like a high-res JPEG or
Yeah.
something that isn't a file type that has that
Right. Transparency.
background. Okay.
Yeah, or an ability to remove a background like where it's on its own layer. So ideally, when you create something, when you create artwork, you're going to try to create it so it's on its own layer, so you can just remove that background. But say, for example, a customer sends you something and it's not there. There's a number of ways to remove this white background. I'm going to show you just one of the easier ones. And I know it works on this artwork. So I'm just going to hit this background eraser tool. And it's going to click, sorry, wrong, the magic eraser tool.
Yeah, the magic eraser.
Yeah, it's nice. So I just click on white. I can set my tolerance. So how much do I want it to pull white out of this image? I can hit continuous, where it will take white out of everything in the image. White from everywhere instead of white of what I just clicked on. And if you notice that, kind of a little bit of a bummer when you try that, because the white in the skull is gone and white in some of the other places. So let me just undo that and show you again some of the other features. So if I take continuous, if I leave continuous on and I hit it, now it's just going to erase white from everywhere that is touching the pixels that are touching that area. Oops, wrong layer. That's the thing about Photoshop. When you're working in layers, you want to make sure you're on the correct layer. So as it's removing this, now you can see, all right, so I can now select the areas that I want to remove the white more specifically and leaving the skull, for example. So this is one way to do it. If you zoom in, I zoomed way in, didn't I? I freaked out my printer.
Hey, and while John is doing this, I would suggest if you have questions for the art expert, John LaDrew, please post them. Also, let us know where you're watching from today. We'd
Yeah.
love to know
People
where
from
in
all over the
you are.
world, yeah.
Yeah.
Where in the world are people watching Digital Mondays?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So I changed my tolerance to 10. I just want to give you an example of what that looks like. So if from even the distinction between the green and the white is so distinct that you can't really tell. But if I take it back up to 50, let's see what that looks like. So really, not too big of a deal in something like this. If we try to hit this green, it's going to remove that. But I don't like, how it leaves some of these lines, but not really too big of an issue. You're not really going to see those things because we're zoomed way in.
By what, like,
Yeah, a couple 100%.
Yeah, crazy amount.
Right. So this is the kind of a one way to get it. There's a number of ways to do this. I'm just going to go with this one for now, just for time's sake. But if you have questions on how to remove backgrounds from images, go to YouTube and just start clicking and watching some videos. I mean, there's so many videos, and even Adobe has how-to sections in there.
But this is a good reason why you would want to get a transparent background.
Yeah.
Image or
Right.
the Dane stuff we talked about a couple weeks ago, having that
Right.
ability to use is a vector image so that you can take and get rid of the background is really cool.
Yeah, and that's all in the export.
Yeah.
So real easy. So here's our original image, and same thing. Another thing we can do here is we can adjust the underbase a little bit, or excuse me, the vibrancy if you wanted to. We can go into hue and saturation here. Sorry, that's a wrong.
It's all good. Hey, while John's doing that, Doug from Portsmouth, Virginia says hello.
Hey, howdy, Doug.
And Cheryl from Raymore, Missouri says hello.
Nice. We've got kind of scattered around.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, hopefully we get a West Coast person on. Maybe we're a little too early for West Coast.
Maybe.
So.
I mean, if it was me, I'd still be sleeping. I don't know. Under image adjustments here, we can just go to the hue and saturation, and we can make some adjustments to saturation here. We can try to make this pop a little bit more if you want. Remember, we're printing on a CMYK printer, so that lime green, that's not going to show up necessarily. But we can try to make it bump up a little bit. One other important thing to note is that this is done in RGB. So always create your artwork and save artwork as RGB. I think the F2100 does take CMYK, but I have seen issues in the past where it doesn't. So one thing to note, RGB.
So if this was, John, I just want to help out the
Sure.
crowd here. If this was, we brought this art in and it said CMYK, can you show us how to easily convert
Yeah,
that?
why not, right? Since we're talking about it.
Absolutely.
So we can go into mode here. Under image and mode, you can make it grayscale, CMYK, RGB, and just try to keep it in RGB. Like Dane had mentioned before, if you wanted to make some adjustments and try to make this thing grayscale, for example, you could just knock down the saturation all the way and turn it into grayscale and then adjust your lightness or your, the hue doesn't really matter on that. But yeah, you can do that easily if you wanted to just run it that way.
We're in Adobe Photoshop right now.
Adobe Photoshop, yeah. So use the Creative Suite. Go ahead and download this Creative Suite. You can get all of these, all of the Adobe programs for free once you subscribe to the subscription.
And I think
obviously these need to be updated.
Great versus
Yeah.
where before they were charging you for upgrades.
Oh yeah, pain in the butt.
Yeah, it was total pain in the
Yeah.
butt because you would just get to where you loved something. They would
Yeah. Yeah.
pay another $200 for it.
Exactly. I should have the automatic updates on, but I'm on Photoshop and Illustrator so much that when it turns on and it's updating, it frustrates me. So I choose to update when I'm done with the day or something like that. I'll just kind of have it do it on its own. But the Adobe Creative Suite, that's what I really like. It's really the kind of the go-to. Corel works as well, and the formats that we're talking about here work the same in Corel as they do in Photoshop. So that being said, I want to save this one as now. Before I do that, let's take a look at the size. So Option Command I will tell us whether we're in pixels or inches, how big it is, our resolution, and the way you can do that is image size. So same thing. I like to work in inches, like Dane said. It just makes sense to me. If you're saving photos and things for Facebook or for some other websites, you might go to pixels because they measure in pixels. So it might be 480 by 690 or something like that. But for artwork purposes, inches is good because we all know what we're looking at here. So that being said, we can just save this as, there's two options here. We can save it as a PNG for direct-to-garment printing, or we can save it as a TIFF. If we're doing this in, say, dye sublimation, we would save it as a PDF, a Photoshop PDF. Okay. I want to note one thing here. Under adjustments, if we go to mode and we go to CMYK, for example, we're going to lose some color loss here, you'll notice. It'll look a little more muted, slightly. But if we tried to save this as a PNG in CMYK, it wouldn't let us. So always go to RGB, and if you go to save as a PNG and you notice it won't, then you know you're not in RGB.
That happened to me a couple times.
Yeah, and people like what? They panic and freak out, but no need to do that. Just very easily switch it over. So this is already saved, so I'm just going to hide out of here, and we're going to go into Garment Creator. One thing I should note here, on my garment creator is I have a version that is the previous version to what you're going to have now. The only reason is, for some reason, when I only works when I plug it into the 2100, where it gives me some of the other call downs, and that's not really going to matter here. I'm going to talk about how to make this pretty simple. That won't be too big of an issue. So here's our artwork. Nice thing about garment creators, we can just drag it in. Remember, it was 14 by 21, so it's a little big, which is, again, is fine. I can now make this adjustment if I want it to be only 16 inches tall. It fits right in onto my 14 by 16 perfectly now. So that's up to you how you want to resize that. I would say bigger is better because you preserve resolution a little bit. If you tried to do it at maybe 5 by 5 or something, when you tried to expand it, you might lose a little bit of resolution even at 300 dpi. So
what you're saying is it's better to have the artwork way
bigger,
larger
yeah,
than what you're going to print,
absolutely,
than way smaller and then increase the size.
Yeah, because you have resolution loss when you go from small to big, not from big to small.
Okay, because we're dealing with raster art or pixelated art.
Pixelated art. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. A lot of people call me on this one. When you bring your artwork into Garment Creator, it looks pixelated and fuzzy, right? That is a rendering issue designed specifically to not bog down Garment Creator, to make it slower trying to render a high resolution image. So this is intentionally low resolution looking. Remember, this is just a preview. This is not what you're going to see when it's printed. You're going to see what is printed, what you had in Photoshop. So just be sure that your Photoshop image is 300 dpi and to size. Okay? That way you know, it doesn't matter what it looks like in Garment Creator, you know it's going to be high resolution. And you can see in this viewing box here how clean and crisp and clear these lines are. I'm now at 400%.
All right, Kevin Gunn from Albany, Georgia.
How, Kevin?
Please join us. He's a Corel user, by the way. Thanks
for
letting us know, Kevin.
Yep, no, not a problem at all. Same things transfer over in Corel. It's just a little bit laid out a little bit differently.
Ford Chevy type of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, hey, they both go down the road, right?
That's right.
Some go down a little bit better than others. You know, Chevys are a little tighter, a little cleaner.
I disagree with you, sir. I'm
a little smoother and quieter.
Sure the Ford is a little bit better than the.
Hey, to each their own, right?
The Chevrolet.
Hey, it's just how you get there. Do you want to just show up, or you want to show up in style, man?
Well, that's why you show up.
That's why you show up in a Chevy. Alrighty. Well, now that we got that out of the way.
Okay.
So very simple. Don't be bogged down or concerned by the resolution issues here. Okay. So that being said, we know we have it the way we want it. It's two size. If we wanted to print this on the large platen, the 16 by 20, we would just change our platen size, and then again we can make our design max out at 290. Let's just go. Let's just change it to 20. Sorry, 20, not 290. There you go. So it's 13, basically 12.9 by 20. So that would be on our large platen. But let's go ahead and do this on the medium, which is typically what we do. So we're going to go 16. I'm going to go 15.75 just to give a little.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's way pixelated.
Yeah, it's not the coolest looking at that size. So here we go, 15.75. All right, so going back into Garment Creator, the old version has only 1 or 2 options. The new version, as you know, has 5. So typically I'm going to set this for print quality 4, and 4 is perfect. In your Garment Creator, you will see that it says that. I don't really bump up density and color anymore. We used to a little bit in the past, but we really just have found that that's not necessary. You can do a little bit here and there if you want. The way density works is all the halftones and gradients, as you increase density, they'll blur in and they'll become kind of oversaturated. So with ink. So there's times if I was doing 100% white, just white block, I might make my white 100%, but don't worry too much about Garment Creator. The default settings are really good usually. You might go up to 4, you might go up to 5 in your setting. I think you can go up to 6 in fact, but double strike white is really way too much. We want to only just lay down the minimum amount of white to give you a good result. So typically 4 is the way to go here. One thing that does transfer over here is the reduce white area. So I always bring this to 4. So that means my underbase is going to be choked back just a little bit. Okay, so this is pretty much it. I mean, Garment Creator is really very simple. I don't want you to overthink it. I'm going to elaborate that on a little bit when we go off my screen, and I'll show you some products. But before we print this, I want to show you how the cost estimator tool works. We're going to go up here into the calculator button, hover over that, you'll see it says estimate. This will bring up our cost estimator tool. We have a lot of questions on this, so I figure we might as well go over it. This is how many shirts. So local settings is how many shirts are we going to do. If we're going to create a new preset, say you're going to do 50 shirts, that's fine, but it always makes sense to show what one shirt will cost. Your name or the number of shirts you're going to do should match your coefficient. So if we were doing 50 shirts, your coefficient should be 50. In this case, we're just doing 1, and our coefficient will be 1. Okay, so that's the amount of shirts you're doing. Here's our ink cost. If you buy multiple printers from us, we have a ton of customers out there that have more than one unit now, and they are buying ink at $185 a cartridge instead of $217. Yeah, so it's really exciting. If you get into multiple units, let us know. We can get you better bid pricing. But if you have one unit, you're paying $217, or I'm sorry, this is 600 milliliters of ink, and your cost is $217, and the capacity is 600. That's how many milliliters you're using. How many milliliters are in your ink cartridge. Okay? So once you have that set, you have one shirt, 600 milliliters. From here, there's a couple ways to do these other costs. You can add a shirt cost if you want. We like Spectra. You can add pre-treat cost. You can add maintenance and pre-treat or whatever. I typically add just maintenance and pre-treat, and I usually factor that at 75 cents, not $1. That is enough to cover my maintenance cost. That is enough to cover my pre-treat. And I think that's even slightly elevated, frankly. It's better to, I think, overestimate than under. If you wanted to make that $1, you certainly could. But let's estimate this job based off how much ink we're going to lay down. And when you see this on level 4 on your printer, it'll be a little bit, or on your Garment Creator, it'll be a little bit more accurate. But here it's showing, well, we're double striking this, so it's showing at 263. If we did double strike white using 7.27 milliliters of ink, it would cost us 263. If we were doing single color, and we just bump that up to quality, oh, no, that's going to make it say level 2. So if we were doing single pass on the old version, this is very similar to the cost of a version. Oh, I don't need to print that. We're just going to do this again. So we'll estimate this job. You'll see that it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be using a little bit less amount of white. So we have 529, so our cost is $1.91. So how much ink you lay down is going to adjust this variable and make it with ink and or with maintenance and pre-treat. We add that other 75 cents. You're about 266. So one thing to note: your average cost on printing with a direct-to-garment printer is between $2 and $4. Usually less than $3. Cool. That's with pre-treat, maintenance, and everything. That's usually our cost on a standard full-size front print, around $3, less than $3. Very occasionally we'll see something in the $4 range, but that's a really big print with a lot of white, a lot of density.
And how much are you seeing in the market that can retail or sell to?
Right. Yeah, good question. So our volume here, if we're buying these shirts for $2 or so, and we're at $3, we're really, let's say we're in it for $6. So if you sell it for 12, that's 100% return. My thought is you should always at least get 100%, but even at 12 bucks, that's a steal. So if you're just doing low volume, think about what your pricing structure should be. But even anything over 12 bucks and your return is 100%. So I typically don't take less than that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think these are easily $20, $25 shirts, cool. Depending on your market.
We got another question from Doug. He's asking, what about pauses between
passes?
Passes, yeah.
Yep. Good question, Doug. So that is the only time we would do that is if we're doing double strike white on your Garment Creator. It's going to be level 6, I believe. The only time you would do double strike or pause between passes typically is when you're double striking and you're laying down a ton of white. But that's something that actually is a really good transition, Doug, into the next thing I want to talk about is how important it is to try to avoid that process. Double striking is really not necessary. Okay. It's almost overkill. I've noticed that I haven't done it in over a year now. And some of these products I'm going to show you will help you avoid having to do that. But typically you might add 10 or 15 seconds between the first white and the second white that is laid down when you select double strike white, or when you are on level 4, or excuse me, level 6 in your garment creator, it will automatically double strike. So you would then have to, you should likely pause between passes for 15 seconds. But I'm telling you right now, if you do the things that I'm going to show you next here for pre-production, you will be laying down so much white that it doesn't matter how much you pause, it's just going to be a big puddled mess. So that's typically how we use pause between passes. There's other ways. If you're printing on, say, polyester and you want to let it sit and you want to try to add a little bit more vibrancy, you could try doing that. I've seen customers who have done, they've gone to dark color t-shirt here, printed a white base, then paused between passes for like 5 seconds, and then done a double strike white. So you'll pause between passes and you'll do white, and then they'll come back in, and then they'll hit light color t-shirt standard, not move the shirt or do anything, and then just print color over top. That is all, in my opinion, not necessary. I think it's like a workaround to poor pre-production practices, and so we can get off of this now and go and show you a little bit of some of these products that we're talking about to increase your pre-production practices and make make your ink go a little bit further, and make your shirts look a little bit brighter. How you pre-treat is critical. Okay, so we sell a couple different pre-treat machines, but this pre-treat here in particular, this is a new product that we're selling now from EcoFreen. This is what we call a universal pre-treat. It can print, you can use this pre-treat for polyesters, blends, 100% cotton, the same bottle of pre-treat solution for everything.
Wow.
It's really, really nice. And one thing I got to say about this stuff is your results are outstanding. So we've been putting this on hoodies, we've been putting it on basically a little bit of everything, and this stuff is so good that the default settings typically in Garment Creator are sufficient. You shouldn't need to ever do a double strike with using this pre-treat if you apply it properly. It just really noticeably makes your colors more vibrant and makes your white go a lot further. Another pre-treat solution we've been using is this Albachem. It's an aerosol can. It's something you simply spray it on the garment, give it a good spray, make sure you have good coverage, and you get really good results with this stuff as well. Outstanding results. And this is for cotton or blends. But it works really good if you're doing left chests. And we did a video before on how to do a left chest, and I used this stuff. So if you want to go back and watch that one, it works, but this stuff works really great. Both of these are available on Shop Melco. You can get them there. I think we're a little back ordered on this because it's so popular and so good, but we can still get it in. This stuff's available, ready to go. So one other element in the pre-production process, you have to pre-treat right, but you also have to use a good quality blank. And by that I mean a tight weave, ring spun cotton, a shirt that has really good adherence for white ink, and typically the higher quality brands will do that. There are some budget brands that will work, and with this pre-treat you can make it work, but again you're going to be using more ink to try to get better vibrancy. If you use a good quality shirt out the gate, you don't have to really worry about adjusting your Garment Creator settings and throwing down more white ink. It really becomes really effective if you use good quality materials to begin with. One brand that we really like and we've been using for a long time is Spectra. They're an industry leader. Another one is Cotton Heritage, and they're also an industry leader. I'd say go to trade shows. Well, can't really do that anymore, can we?
Dang it.
I know.
Stupid vid.
Yeah. Stupid vid. But next trade show we go to, if you are getting back out on the road, notice what all the printers are using. All of the manufacturers, all the other direct-to-garment printer manufacturers are using these blanks for a reason. They're using Spectra or Cotton Heritage. It's because they're good. So you can set up an account for either one of these. I would suggest doing both. They are not through distribution. You have to buy them direct. Tell them Melco sent you, and I think you'll be really happy you get these good quality blanks, and they have all the colors, they have all the shapes and sizes and materials, and it's just really good high quality stuff. So you print on a high quality material, You can kind of see in this image, this is 4 different settings in Garment Creator. It's a little bit hard to tell, I think, on screen, but you can't really tell the difference between the 4 different settings because I used good quality pre-treat application, I used a really good quality shirt, and the default setting, which was really inexpensive to print, typically works really, really well. So if you need more vibrancy, you can get it, but usually the default settings with a good quality shirt and a good pre-treat application, that's going to eliminate all of your vibrancy or color issues. Do the little things that we talked about in Photoshop, increase your hue and saturation, high resolution, save it as a transparent background PNG, you're going to get good results every time.
We've
typically
got a
2
question
sides.
from
Yeah.
Michelle.
Go ahead.
Michelle is saying, how much pre-treat do I need to use on light colors?
Yeah.
I have been having issues with light with the new EcoFree.
Okay, very good. That's a good question. We always have a tendency to default to talking about printing on dark colored garments, and there are some there are some techniques that you can use to print better on light colored garments. So this is an example here of a light colored shirt. This is on a Cotton Heritage. It looks really good. I was able to get this more vibrant, and I can show you how I'll do that in a second here. We'll go back actually into my screen. But the rule of thumb when printing on a light colored garment is you do not need to pre-treat it. If you do decide to get a little bit more crispness or a little bit more vibrancy, I would use this. And I would just lightly touch it with pre-treat solution. So generally the rule is if you put down too much pre-treat on a light colored garment, it's going to wash out.
Ooh, okay.
Right? So white pre-treat is designed to help white ink bond to the cotton. If you're pre-treating on a white shirt and not using white ink and just using color, that color ink is not going to bond nearly as well. So the color ink will bond perfectly to a shirt that had not been pre-treated, but if you're going to pre-treat to get a little bit more vibrancy, you need to significantly reduce the volume of pre-treat to maybe you're at 5% pre-treat, 95% water, or 10% pre-treat, 90% distilled water. And you can put that on with a sprayer, you can use your pre-treat machine, but I just frankly use a home plant mister.
Oh, okay.
It's a really nice fine mister, and when I put it on the heat press before I iron it, before I print it, I'll put it on the heat press. Before I smash it down, I'll just take that mister and give it like 4 squirts just so it lightly applies a little bit of pre-treat to the garment, and you'll notice that you're going to get a little bit better result that way, and you won't have any washability issues.
Another question from Rachel has a question. She's heard that there is light colored pre-treat.
Yes.
Do you have any info on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple companies that make it. We don't sell that stuff, not because it's necessarily bad, because I don't think it's necessary. We like the non-toxic stuff here. All the pre-treat that we sell is certified and non-toxic, so not saying that is, but Image Armor and some of the others, they work great on light colored garments. If you're going to do that, certainly worth a try. I have not found that it is necessary, however. But certainly, I think Image Armor is one of the manufacturers. Give it a shot. It just Melco doesn't sell it.
Yeah, let us know how that goes if you try
Yeah,
it. And,
if you have any images.
One more question. Doug has a question. He says, what about companies that sell pre-treated shirts?
Right, so there are a few manufacturers out there, and they're even becoming more popular. I know that's a fact. That was a big discussion in 2020 that a lot of these big manufacturers were going to start pre-treating their own shirts, and they were going to start selling them through distribution. So look for that in the near future. It may even be coming any day now if it's not already out. There is one company called RTP, Ready to Print. They're pre-treated and ready to go. They're really popular. A lot of customers use them. We've even used them in the past. The drawback, in my opinion, is you're limited to that one blank and that one style. They have a lot of colors though, so it works really, really well, especially in a pinch if you just needed to have a few in the house.
Yeah, like if you were doing just black shirts or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
My only concern about those is I've actually used them myself personally, and you can't take them and print them and wear them. I found, at least my skin is a little bit sensitive. I found actually I got rashes.
You have to wash it first?
So you need to wash that shirt.
Yeah.
Where I've actually worn shirts where it's had pre-treatment in just one area. This, like under the armpits, not trying to be gross, but where you sweat.
Yeah.
And it actually gave me a rash. So I would just tell you, if you're using that, Just
It's
be
interesting.
careful that you don't get in trouble with your customers.
Good to know.
So,
Yeah.
just
yeah.
a thought.
But yeah, and that brings it to the point. The whole shirt is pre-treated. So if you're going to do a sleeve, or you're going to do a back, or you want to do the front as well, if you wanted to do all of it, that whole shirt is pre-treated. But that's why we like this stuff too. So you can pick any shirt you want, use a really high quality blank like this, any color, any shape, any size, women's, men's, kids. But if you need to do just a little corner or a little sleeve, just add a little bit of heat pre-treat with the spray. So I think that application for me, I like the versatility of it a little bit more. I like to be able to control it a little bit more, and that's why we don't use those all the time, and we really kind of push this this automatic here, this method here.
So the next question, John,
Yeah.
this will be our last question.
Yeah, no problem.
Next question is, and I know we can't do live events right now, but let's say when we're getting ready to go to a trade show, majority of the shirts that we use at a trade show are already pre-treated. But they're these Cotton Heritage or these, what was the other brand? I'm sorry.
Spectra.
Spectra. So how do you pre-treat them beforehand and do something to them? How's that work?
Yeah, good question. So before a trade show, and you can do this at your shop too, once you pre-treat a shirt, typically they're good for a couple months. So I will, frankly, what I do is I'll pre-treat them. I'll pull it off the pre-treat machine, and then what I'll do is I'll fold it over itself, then I'll fold it again, and I just stack them, and I end up putting them in a box, and I forget about them. I haven't dried them or anything. I just put them, I fold them over wet, put them in a box, and that's that.
And usually you put a bag around them though too, don't you?
You can, yeah, to keep maybe any moisture from getting in, I think is more of the concern.
Yeah.
And
we don't
diluting.
have that problem here. But
Not
if
so
you're
much,
in
yeah.
Florida or something.
Yeah, Louisiana, down in the bayou.
Yeah, down good food down there.
Oh man, now you're making me hungry. I haven't eaten breakfast this morning.
Leave it to the fat guy to talk about food. So.
Well, we have an Indian restaurant right down the street, so I think
Nice.
I'm gonna go visit them after
Is it
this.
open?
Yeah. I hope so.
I hope so too.
So that's how we do it. You can pre-treat in advance, just let them sit, and then take them with you, or put them in a box and pull them out as needed. Just make a note, like put a little sticky, like a little red sticker or green sticker on there, noting that it has been pre-treated, because with this pre-treat solution, you won't notice that it had been pre-treated. So it typically doesn't stain, and you don't really see any results. So you won't know. So make sure you don't. One thing you don't want to do is redo work and do it twice, right?
No.
So that's a good way to do it. If you wanted to run them through a conveyor dryer, you could. You can dry them right away that way. If you wanted to put them on your heat press, you can do that. I like hanging them, frankly. I put them on a hanger, put them on a rack, and put a fan in front of them. They'll dry within 30 minutes. I like that. A little less invasive than a heat press. It dries a little more naturally. A little less likely for the minerals to not kind of crystallize and show on your shirt. So however you want to dry it is really good. I have heard that people put them in the dryer of their laundry dryer, and that doesn't work that well, but some people have tried it and they said that it did. So you might want to experiment with that, but I would say the other methods are for sure, and they work really well. So let's go back to my screen real quick, Mike, so we can show some white, some printing on white type stuff, so people have questions about this, because I always overlook it. But if you're printing on a light color t-shirt, and we're printing just color ink only, it doesn't matter what color the t-shirt is. All it's saying here when we use light color t-shirt is that we're not printing white ink. So we're printing color ink only on this one. Your settings are going to be a little bit different in the new garment creator, but let's just say we go to level 2 quality. One thing I really like to do, and this is universal between the two, is under print options, I like to hit ink blot reduction. Okay, ink blot reduction, what that does is it lays down yellow first, gives it it'll lay down the yellow only, then it'll come out, then it'll go back in and then print the CMK.
So the yellow acts like an underbase almost.
It does. Well, yellow has a tendency to blend with the other colors and have a tendency of, when you lay down a lot of ink, to blur. So I like,
great information.
yeah,
I've never heard that.
ink blot reduction is really good if you're looking for getting the best quality out of your print on a light garment. You can also go into unidirectional, which will slow things way down, but it'll also help preserve crispness and clarity a little bit if you needed it. But typically, normal print, level 2, should do a good job with a little bit of pre-treat. If you're trying to nitpick it and make it as good as possible, try using that ink blot reduction.
Especially if you got your platen height right.
Yeah, that's important, of course. Yeah, that's critical. All right, so we can get off of this now.
Okay. We have one last question. I told you we had only last question.
No problem. I like it.
Rachel came back with a good one. Can
Yeah.
you over pre-treat a shirt? Like if you accidentally treated it once and then you came back and did it again,
Right.
weren't sure.
Yeah, good question. I've done that a million times. And that's what I was saying earlier is you don't want to necessarily have to redo work twice, but you can pre-treat a pre-treated shirt. And the way you'll know is if you pre-treated it and you think it's pretty good, but maybe it's been sitting in the quarter for a while, and you go to print that shirt and it looks dull and muted, that's a pre-treat issue. So that pre-treat is expired. You can put a little bit more pre-treat on it. If you're going to re-pre-treat a pre-treated shirt, I would add just a little bit. I wouldn't do full saturation. The reason is you don't need much to reactivate that pre-treat that's already on the garment. If you were doing it the first time, like you're pre-treating this shirt once, and you know you'd pre-treated it, but you're just like saturating the heck out of it where you can like wring the pre-treat out. It's just oversaturated. The only drawback to that is, one, you're using more pre-treat and wasting it. Two, it takes longer to dry. You can show a little bit easier on the garment, so you might have some more like crystallization or crustiness, yeah, thickness. You might feel the pre-treat a little bit more. But the real big issue is that you are running into washability issues now. If you oversaturate, then you're not necessarily, the ink is not going to bond as well with the cotton as it would if it was just the right amount. So typically we measure in grams. I don't know what those gram measurements are. You can look them up online. The reason I don't know is because I have the settings in my pre-treat machines pretty well set, and I know they work well. On the Zoom AE, we're doing it about 40. Speed at about 40, and on the Mr. T1 we're doing round trip level 4. So that usually does, I mean, that's more than enough. I think it's perfect, frankly. Cool. And you can tell if you've pre-treated your shirt, you can really tell by visualizing it. If it looks like you have good coverage from edge to edge, you don't see any banding, you don't see any dry spots, you've done a pretty good job. If you're starting to see where it's not really, you don't have enough pre-treat on, where there's little dry spots, or it's a little spotty or flaky, or then you need to increase the volume of pre-treat. If you notice that it's puddling up on there, then you probably have too much. So, yeah, little pre-treat technique there.
All right.
Any more questions?
No, I think
That's
I
good.
think we're good. Of course, if you're watching this at a later time, feel free to post your comments even after this video is done being live. We'll get back on and answer those questions. But John, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike, and thanks for watching. Thanks for your questions. And if you have any questions, like Mike said, don't hesitate to type them up, and we'll get back to you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next Digital Monday.